Hey everyone, ready for another deep dive?
Absolutely. Always up for a good deep dive.
This time we're tackling It's All Over, the kiss that changed Spanish football, the Netflix doc
Oh, yeah, that one.
everyone was buzzing about
Mhm.
last year. It's about that incident at the 2023 Women's World Cup.
Spain wins.
Yeah, big historic win.
Huge.
But then, bam, scandal eclipses the victory.
Overshadows the whole thing.
We're going to untangle this whole mess, not just the kiss itself,
Right.
but what it reveals about Spanish football, like what's really going on.
Yeah, beyond the headlines. What's the deeper story here?
Okay, so picture this. It's the medal ceremony, the team's ecstatic, pure joy.
On top of the world.
And then Luis Rubiales, he's the president of the Royal Spanish Football Federation.
RFEF. Right?
Yep, the RFEF.
Okay.
So Rubiales kisses Jenni Hermoso, star player, right on the lips.
And the world just explodes.
Total media frenzy. Was it consensual? Was it totally out of line? What happens next?
The documentary does a really good job, I think, of showing how this moment really highlights the power dynamics.
Totally.
You have Rubiales, this high-ranking official.
Right.
And then Hermoso, a player.
Under his federation.
Exactly, under his authority.
And it gets super messy because Rubiales is adamant, says the kiss was completely consensual. Hermoso, though, immediately pushes back, says she felt pressured, vulnerable.
It's a complicated situation for sure.
And to understand this whole thing, we have to go back, rewind to the year before the World Cup. 15 players
Wow.
from the Spanish national team, they withdraw.
A boycott.
They're protesting against the RFEF, mistreatment, lack of support.
For the women's game.
It's like, looking back, that protest was almost like foreshadowing, you know?
Yeah, right. Like a canary in a coal mine.
A sign that things were deeply, deeply wrong.
Something was brewing.
The documentary does a great job, I think, connecting the dots between that protest
Yeah, it really does.
and this whole incident with the kiss
The dissatisfaction
with the Federation.
had been there,
Yeah.
simmering for years.
It wasn't just about football, it was about respect. Basic respect.
Right, equal treatment.
Okay, so let's get back to the kiss. The film reveals that Hermoso, she was pressured
By the RFEF.
to just like downplay it and make it go away.
Sweep it under the rug.
They basically told her to protect the Federation's image
Over her own truth.
over her own experience. You just won the World Cup and they're telling you to shut up.
And that right there
I know.
is what ignited this hashtag Se Acabó movement.
Right, it's all over. That's what it means.
Powerful statement.
And it just resonated, not just about Rubiales,
The whole system.
but the whole messed up system.
Yeah, the whole culture.
It was amazing to watch. And it wasn't just Hermoso speaking out. Alexia Putellas,
Oh,
two-time Ballon d'Or winner, she tweets her support and boom, it's like a wildfire.
spreads like wildfire.
Everyone's demanding Rubiales step down, fans, players, the whole country.
It really captured something
Yeah,
bigger than just this one event.
so much bigger. So it's clear this wasn't about a single kiss. It was years
Of feeling ignored
of frustration.
and undervalued.
Yeah.
A whole system that silenced the players
Yeah.
and protected the people in power.
And what I think is so compelling about this story is that it's not just Spain. It's not just football. It's this resonates, this power imbalance.
anyone who's ever felt that, like, yeah, I've been there.
You know, whether it's work or any other area of life.
So we've got this huge public outcry. Players are unified.
Yeah.
And then there's Rubiales. He just digs in, refuses to resign.
Defiant.
And then he gives this speech at the RAFES meeting.
I remember that.
Calls the criticism false feminism.
What was he thinking?
I know. What was the strategy there?
Like refusing to see the problem, not taking responsibility at all.
That's classic, right?
And he ends up the victim.
Yeah.
Instead of acknowledging
Dismissing the players.
what they went through, their experiences.
Their truth.
Yeah.
And of course, it backfires big time.
Spectacular. That speech, he wanted to rally support, but it just alienated everyone.
Further alienated him.
Public opinion just hardens against him.
Mm-hmm.
It's such a powerful lesson, like in this day and age.
Right.
Transparency, accountability, those are key.
You try to silence people,
Yeah.
control the narrative, it just backfires.
It just blows up in your face.
It amplifies the calls for change.
So here we are. Pressure's mounting, the world is watching, and Rubiales is just clinging on. So the big question is, does he finally give in?
Well, that's a story for part 2.
We're going to have to wait and see. But first, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back to unpack the turning point in this whole saga.
Stay tuned.
Don't go anywhere.
Welcome back to our deep dive. We're picking up right where we left off.
Rubiales, defying everyone. What finally made him cave?
Well, the players were a force. They stood together, completely unified. They basically said, Rubiales goes or we go.
Wow. That's incredible. They just won the World Cup, and
They were willing to risk it all.
they were willing to walk away from the national team.
They knew their strength, you know.
Yeah.
It was in their unity.
Yeah.
And they used it.
To hold him accountable.
Exactly. And then you have the media. The story blew up.
Global news.
Yeah, international attention. Everyone was watching.
It was everywhere. Social media, just nonstop. The pressure was immense.
And then FIFA steps in.
Right. They couldn't just ignore it.
The governing body of football, they suspend Rubiales
That's a huge blow.
for his authority.
It's like, okay, game over.
Yeah. The players, the public, FIFA, he was just,
Done.
yeah, totally cornered.
I'm still fascinated by his initial defiance. What do you think he was thinking? Like, could he actually ride this out?
It's that power structure, you know?
Mm-hmm.
These organizations like the RFEF,
Mm-hmm.
they're used to operating a certain way. Impunity, you know?
It's like they're in their own bubble.
A little bit. The film kind of hints at that.
Hmm.
This guy clinging to power.
As it's all slipping away.
Yeah, crumbling around him.
Even after he resigns, though, the story doesn't end there. The documentary goes into the legal stuff, right?
Oh, yeah. Spanish prosecutors, they're going after him. 2.5 years in prison they're seeking?
Seriously. For the kiss.
Well, it's complicated. 1 year for alleged sexual assault. That's for the kiss.
Uh-huh.
And then another 1.5 years for coercion. That's about pressuring Hermoso.
Right, to keep quiet.
Exactly.
Wow. So this wasn't just a scandal that blew over. This had real consequences.
This is serious stuff. And the trial, it's set for February 2025.
So this story's still unfolding.
Very much so.
It's wild how one incident, it just
It's
triggers,
a chain reaction.
yeah, like a ripple effect.
Huh.
And the consequences just keep spreading.
In this case, it forced Spanish football to confront some really deep-rooted issues.
The stuff that had been ignored for years.
Exactly.
One thing I really appreciated about the film was how it showed the personal stories of the women involved. It wasn't just about, like, the big events.
The resignations, the trial.
It was about the human impact.
It gave them a voice. Hermoso, Putelas, Paredes, you really see what they went through.
You connect with them on a personal level.
It's powerful. They're vulnerable, but also incredibly strong.
Determined.
Yeah, they remind us that behind all the headlines,
There are real people.
whose lives are affected by this stuff.
And the documentary also kind of makes you think, was this an isolated incident? Or is there a bigger problem?
With Spanish football, yeah, and maybe with sports in general.
What allows these abuses to happen?
What's the culture like? It's a really important question.
What does this story tell us about gender dynamics? And not just in sports, right?
It reveals the inequalities, the fact that these issues still exist,
Discrimination, lack of support.
even outright abuse.
It's not just sports, though, right? Think about Hollywood.
Entertainment, politics, the corporate world.
It's everywhere. These power imbalances are everywhere.
Yeah, and the abuse that comes with that, it's a big problem.
And hashtag Sikabo movement, it became a symbol.
Of resistance, of pushing back.
Like, we're not going to be silent anymore.
And it wasn't just women who were speaking out, right? You saw men
Standing with,
being allies.
recognizing that this was a fight for everyone.
Because true equality,
Yeah.
it requires everyone to participate.
Men have to be part of the solution.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Challenging sexism, abuse, working towards a better world.
It's a powerful story and so much bigger than just football. It's about power, holding people accountable.
And the fight for a more just world.
We're going to explore that more in the final part of our deep dive. We'll talk about the impact this has had, the changes that have been made.
And what the future holds for Spanish football and beyond.
Okay, so we're back, wrapping up our deep dive into It's All Over.
All over.
We've covered a lot, the kiss, the fallout, hashtag Sakabo, Rubiales gone, even the legal stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But the big question, the one I keep coming back to is, did it actually change anything?
Like real change.
Yeah, lasting change.
Hmm.
Because that takes time, effort, holding people accountable. Has that happened?
That's the core of it, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
The documentary, it kind of wrestles with that.
Mm-hmm.
Rubiales resigning, that was a win, for sure. But just the first step.
Okay, so what's happened since? Like, what's different now?
Well, the RFEF, they have the new president, Pedro Rocha Junco.
Okay.
He's seen as more progressive, supportive of the women's game.
That's good, I guess. But what about the deeper issues? The discrimination, the lack of support. Is that really gone?
That's the question, right?
Yeah.
They've made promises, reforms, better conditions, more investment. Yeah, but documentary makes you think, are those just words?
It's easy to say the right things.
It is. This is an organization that not that long ago was trying to silence these women.
Actions speak louder than words.
Exactly. And the film captures that tension perfectly.
There's hope, there's momentum, but also,
Skepticism.
like, we'll believe it when we see it.
Keep the pressure on.
So it feels like Spanish football is kind of at a crossroads. What can fans do, even people watching this, like us? How can we help?
Stay informed. Keep paying attention. Support groups like FootPro, they're fighting for the players' rights.
Don't let this story disappear.
Don't.
Yeah.
Because the hashtag #Sakabo movement, it showed us what's possible. When people come together,
Demand better.
we have power.
It started with football, but it's bigger than that. The message resonated everywhere.
It's about challenging the status quo wherever we find it.
This documentary really got to me. It's a call to action. It's not just about Spanish football, it's about all of us.
Wherever we see injustice, we have to speak up. We have to hold people accountable.
Like that ripple effect we talked about. One action can spark
A wave.
a whole movement for change.
And that's what's so powerful about documentaries like this. They make us think, they challenge us, they remind us that we can make a difference.
So if you haven't seen It's All Over, check it out. It's an incredible story about courage, about resilience, about fighting for what's right.
It's a reminder that even when things seem impossible, hope is never lost.
And if this deep dive has made you think, keep exploring these issues. Talk about them, learn more, find ways to support change in your own life, your own community.
Because change, real change, it starts with each of us.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. Keep learning, keep questioning, and keep pushing for a better world. That's it for us. We'll see you next time.